Welcome to the Two Beans in a Pod. Today's topic is, it's an intense one. We're doing a deep analysis of the material related to Virginia Giuffre. We'll be looking at excerpts from her memoir, Nobody's Girl, and then getting into the really volatile stuff around that alleged Dead Man Switch video.
It's an incredibly complex narrative. You have this intersection of very raw personal testimony of abuse on one hand,
Right.
and then high-stakes legal advocacy, but it's all mixed in with these unverified, frankly wild claims that just exploded online since her death.
So our mission here is really just to unpack the source material, the book, the statements, to understand her story, what drove her, and what to make of all these claims that are circulating now.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's start with her voice, which feels crucial. In her memoir, she's so explicit about wanting her story told authentically with all her flaws.
She was worried that if she cleaned it up, she'd isolate the very survivors she was trying to reach. She wanted them to feel less alone.
And that really framed her entire public life, didn't it?
It did. Her ultimate goal, beyond just telling her story, was pushing for legislation. She wanted to completely eliminate the statute of limitations for child sexual abusers. That was the mission.
The memoir gives so much painful context for how she became a target in the first place. It talks about a really difficult childhood, which she said made her the perfect victim.
Absolutely. The trauma started way before Epstein. She talks about this place, the Growing Together facility.
It sounds just horrific.
It was. She describes this practice where they'd force kids to stand in front of a mirror and scream things at themselves. Awful things. I am a whore, a slut, a druggie.
Wow.
And she says that environment taught her to just focus on survival, to compartmentalize everything. And tragically, those were the exact skills that made her so vulnerable later on.
Which makes her entry into Epstein's world just that much more chilling. The source material puts her at Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago club. This is the summer of 2000.
She's just 16, working as a locker room attendant for, $9 an hour?
Just trying to get by. And that's where Ghislaine Maxwell finds her.
It is. Giuffre says she was just sitting at the front desk, reading an anatomy book, and Maxwell approaches her. The recruitment starts right there, but it's disguised as this great opportunity.
A job offer.
Yeah, a job offer. Maxwell says she's looking for a massage therapist to travel with a wealthy man, Epstein. And it spirals into abuse almost immediately.
And the coercion was so subtle at first. Maxwell was stroking her ego.
Completely. Told her she was a natural, that she had huge potential. The whole time this massage training was going on, the abuse was starting. Maxwell was pretending to be her mentor while grooming her for Epstein.
Which brings us to this one really unsettling detail from the memoir. It shows exactly how Epstein controlled her. What happened after her second visit to that pink house?
It's just classic psychological warfare. Epstein pulls out this grainy photo.
Right.
It's a picture of her little brother, Skydie, just walking away from the camera. And that single, subtle act confirmed her worst fear.
That he could get to her family.
That he could get to the person she loved most in the world. And that fear, right there, locked her in a cage of silence. It's why she stayed for 2 years.
So what broke that? What was the shift that took her from just surviving to actually fighting back?
Becoming a mother. She says in the book, after her daughter, Ellie, was born, it all just crystallized for her. She realized predators like him, they don't stop until they're made to stop. She had felt like she had no say for so long, and she just promised herself and her daughter that she would never have no say again.
And that determination turned her into this critical witness. She'd traveled the world with them. She knew the network.
And she started naming names. She said she was trafficked to a well-known businessman while his pregnant wife was asleep in the next room.
A world-renowned scientist, a respected politician.
And even a foreign head of state who she just calls the prime minister in court documents.
She didn't just talk either. She took legal action. She gave notes to French prosecutors. She testified against Jean-Luc Brunel.
And then came the battles in the U.S. She filed that civil suit against Epstein as Jane Doe 102.
Which was so important because that was right after she found out about that secret deal he got, right?
Exactly. That 2007 non-prosecution agreement that the U.S. Attorney's Office gave him without telling any of the victims. Her lawsuit was a direct challenge to what she saw as a total failure of the system.
And then, of course, the big one, the suit against Prince Andrew. That settlement in 2022 was a huge moment.
It really was. Even though the terms were confidential, the public statement was a major victory. Prince Andrew had to accept that she had suffered, both as an established victim of abuse and as a result of unfair public attacks.
It was this rare official validation.
A huge validation. But even with these wins, the campaign to discredit her was just relentless.
A pattern we see over and over again with survivors who speak out. What were the main attacks the sources detail?
Well, a big one was the money she got for that famous photograph with Prince Andrew. It was, what, $160,000?
Right, and critics just jumped on that.
They weaponized it immediately, used it to paint her as a liar who was just in it for the money, completely ignoring the massive cost and danger of being the main public witness in a case like this.
And then there was the issue with her first manuscript.
Exactly. They pointed out differences between her unpublished 2011 manuscript and her later sworn testimony.
But she explained that, didn't she?
She did. She admitted she had fictionalized some things back then because she was terrified of being sued, of retribution. Later, when she felt safer, she could tell the full, unvarnished truth in court. But her opponents framed it as her being a liar, not as a trauma response.
So when you put her detailed story up against the official government narrative, it's just night and day.
A profound conflict.
Yeah.
The source material points to official DOJ and FBI memos claiming Epstein didn't blackmail anyone, that there was no big client list.
Which is so hard to believe when Giuffre repeatedly swore she gave evidence to law enforcement in the US and the UK, and that they just buried it.
And that's the core of it. That conflict is why public distrust is so high. And it's why these more sensational claims can get so much traction.
Before we get into those claims and the dead man switch, a quick note. If you're finding this deep dive helpful for sorting through all the facts, please take a second to hit that like button and subscribe. It really helps us keep doing this kind of detailed analysis. Okay, let's turn to the dead man switch. This whole controversy exploded after Virginia Giuffre's death, which was ruled a suicide. But the context around that is incredibly suspicious.
The context is everything. She had been vocal about feeling targeted. She claimed being hit by a bus was an assassination attempt. She'd been hospitalized for kidney failure. So for many people, the official ruling of suicide just doesn't sit right.
It fuels the skepticism. For anyone who might not know, can you just briefly explain what a dead man switch is?
Sure. I mean, at its core, it's a pre-programmed information release. It's an automated system set up to publish files if the owner fails to check in after a certain amount of time.
So if something happens to you, the information gets out no matter what.
Exactly. It's a way to guarantee information gets released, even if the source is silenced.
Okay, so this alleged audio, which supposedly surfaced around June of 2025, makes some explosive claims.
Yeah.
And we have to be clear, these are completely unverified. We're just reporting on the content of the audio itself.
Right. So the first claim is a voice, allegedly Giuffre's, stating very plainly, "I have been murdered."
Wow.
The second claim is that Epstein is not actually dead, but is still alive. This plays into a lot of the rumors that were already out there.
And then it starts naming other very prominent people.
It does. Third, the audio implicates former President Obama with Epstein and makes a claim about his sexuality. And fourth, and this is the one that even some analysts we reviewed said jumps the shark.
Yeah.
It implicates Bill Gates, alleging he was involved in human experiments with Epstein.
And it's those kinds of claims that immediately made people question if the audio is real. What's the analysis of the voice itself?
The debate is fierce. Critics say it sounds like an actor reading a script, or that it's an AI fake. The main tell for them is that the speaker in the audio apparently never takes a breath. It sounds very unnatural.
But whether the audio is real or not, the narrative it pushes has gone viral. It feeds into a pre-existing suspicion.
It absolutely does. The idea that where there is smoke, there is fire is so powerful here. And it has momentum because Giuffre herself testified that she gave evidence to authorities and they buried it. That deep systemic suspicion of a cover-up makes even the most outlandish claims seem plausible to some.
So this whole deep dive, it just reveals a story of immense suffering, but also incredible resilience and this tireless fight for change. Her book makes it so clear that, while Epstein might be gone, the culture that enabled him is, in her words, alive and well.
And that contrast between her detailed firsthand accounts, corroborated by flight logs, by other survivors, and the official memo saying there's nothing to see here, it just forces you to keep questioning. Her final legacy in the book is this hope that survivors will unite and keep fighting.
I want to leave you with one final thought to consider, and it comes from her memoir. Giuffre said she often soothed her trauma by riding horses. She loved that, unlike humans, they just They return to grazing peacefully right after a danger has passed.
Mm.
So what does our continued decades-long inability to move past the threat of these powerful abusers tell us about our own societal trauma response?
If this discussion provided you with deep insights, please consider hitting the like button and subscribing for more in-depth analyses.
Thank you for listening to Two Beans in a Pod. Please watch the video and order Virginia's book from the link below.